right, everyone, let's continue with more live feeds that we are getting. Let's go out live right now to Minnesota. We have Minnesota lawmakers, of course, speaking on the tragedy that happened yesterday. Let's listen in.
Minds to start thinking about the solutions that we know are accessible to us.
Thank you, Representative Omar. My name is Dr. Mark Gorlick. I'm a pediatric emergency medicine physician, and I want to start by acknowledging the grief of all the children and families at Assumption Church. Every single one of them was assaulted and traumatized yesterday, everyone in that community. And I also want to acknowledge the folks in the EMS system and at Hennepin Health and at Children's Minnesota who took care of those patients. Because I know from my 25 years of practicing pediatric emergency medicine that when you have seen a small body that has been mutilated by bullets, you do not easily or ever get over that. And all the more so because we all know it is entirely preventable. Since 2020, when gun injury became the leading cause of death for children in the United States, since then we have been saying that we are in a public health crisis. And we are. But too often we are putting the emphasis on the word crisis instead of on the word health. This is a health issue. This is not a criminal justice issue or a policing issue. This is not a constitutional law issue. This is not a moral issue. It is a health issue. Children are being injured and killed. They're being injured and killed by bullets coming out of guns fired by people in a social context. And a public health issue requires a public health approach. Centuries of public health research and experience tells us that we have to address all of those factors. In this case, starting with the lethality of the gun and the bullet. Now, the mechanics of this are pretty simple, as Representative Omar said. It's simple. More bullets fired with more force, more injury. Fewer bullets fired with less force cause less injury. It really is that simple. And it turns out the epidemiology and the public policy is also quite simple. There is extensive research showing that in jurisdictions with stronger gun safety laws and policies, including limitations and bans on semi-automatic weapons and high-capacity magazines, that in those jurisdictions there are fewer people who die of gun injury. Easy, right? So what we need is those actions. We need those laws because those laws will save people's lives, period. Those laws can and will save our children's lives. And so, we need action at the federal level, we need action at the state level, and as you've heard. And so I would like to next introduce State Senator Zainab Mohammed.
Okay. They're asking me to get lower so you can hear me. Speak louder? Okay, great. I want to thank everyone for being here today, including so many of my legislative colleagues. And I want to take the opportunity to call out few of them who are not here today but have been extraordinary on this issue, and some who are with us, including Senator Marty, Senator Latz, and Senator Gustafson. The list of us who demand action on this issue is large and growing every day. And because we cannot go back in time, the moment to act is now. What happened at Annunciation Catholic School yesterday was an attack against our beautiful Southside community, against all people of faith, and against humanity. As we have said already, and it must be repeated, offering prayers for the victims is not enough. These children in the church were in the act of praying. Some of us are privileged to be in a position to not only pray for peace, but to act on it and to create it. At the legislative level, we have taken steps to make our community safer, like red flag laws and enhanced background checks. We have and will continue to give law enforcement new tools. But the monsters who commit these horrific crimes and acts keep using the same tools. The same weapons of war turn up over and over at different shootings. High-powered, high-capacity rifles have killed thousands of Americans over the decades, and hundreds of children, including the ones yesterday. It makes me sick that our teachers and kids know what to do in the event of an attack, that they conduct drills to react when that awful moment comes. Parents have practiced at explaining the unexplainable and consoling children who have lost friends who are afraid to go back to the classroom tomorrow. We can act here in Minnesota so that generations from now, our children's children won't fear and won't have to worry about anything but books, math, and maps. If the shooter had an ideology, it was one of hatred, of humanity. They express admirations of mass shooters who have targeted Jews and Muslims and Christians and progressives and children. This is not a part of any community's identity. It is pure hate. The targets of gun violence are too many to count. 2 months ago, it was our friends, Melissa Hortman and John Hoffman and their families, and dozens of other legislators, including me. On Monday, it was 7 people on the street in Minneapolis. Yesterday, it was kids in church. Who will it be tomorrow? How will we explain to them we did nothing to save them? We cannot shield our children with our eyes closed and hands behind our backs. When Martin Luther King was murdered, Bobby Kennedy quoted an ancient Greek poet who said that pain falls drop by drop upon our heart, and that in our despair against our will, through the grace of God, and it becomes wisdom. Our community feels pain, which we cannot forget, and we won't. We must find the wisdom and the strength to act to save each other and all future generations. Thank you. And next, I'd like to call up my partner in the Senate District, Representative Emma Greenman.
Well, I first want to say, I think on behalf of Senator Mohammed, Councilwoman Koski, we represent the beautiful neighborhood that Annunciation is part of. And thank you for the advocates, the colleagues, the community members here who are here, not just from Minneapolis, not just from the metro, from around the state, who understand what is happening. Our community is shaken and heartbroken. Losing 2 kids, 17 injured kids and parishioners, and a whole community who this tragedy has reverberated out. I found out about this from neighbors who called and texted and who didn't know what was going on. They heard the barrage of bullets. Nobody should have to live through that. Nobody should lose their kids or family members over that, and communities shouldn't have to live like this. So for the last 24 hours, last day, we have been wrapping our arms around the community, around the families, around Annunciation Church and everybody there. And I just want you all to know how important this community is. You know, this is the place where people go and give blood. It is where the very Jewish side of me got a Christmas tree. It is where Girl Scouts and sports teams, it is our entire community. And so when something like this happens, it is not just South Minneapolis, it is Richfield and in Bloomington, in the whole metro. And we join in our grief communities around the country that have been here before, that have been shocked and wrecked and have said this is unimaginable, and now it is imaginable because we keep letting it happen. Enough is enough. We cannot become numb to this. We cannot become numb. We cannot have people say there's nothing else we can do. Red flag laws don't work. Anything doesn't work. That is not true. And there is more we can do. Today, we are talking about a school and a church, but we know across the country it is a school and a church and a concert and a grocery store and a movie theater and just going to work. Everyday people need to be safe doing everyday things. In Minnesota, we have been working hard to get this done, and we know that there's more to do, and we need elected officials, we need communities, we need everybody to demand this, because no longer can any elected official say, we will not take care of the guns that are killing our kids. No longer. And we know that this is not a uniquely Minnesota issue. It is a national issue. And as our Congresswoman Omar said over and over again, and has said, we need a national solution. So we are going to get to work here in Minnesota. We have been getting to work. Behind me, whether it's Representative Frazier, Representative Moeller, and many others that my colleague Senator Mohammed mentioned, have been working night and day, years after years. And we are going to get it done, but what we know is Washington has to solve this problem with us. Yes. I just want to leave you with the words that the principal of Annunciation said yesterday, because I think it is indicative of our path forward. He said a proverb. He said, when you pray, move your feet. Move your feet. And we are here today. We are here with community. We are here with families and parents. We are here with people across the state of Minnesota and elected officials at all levels of government to move our feet together. And that means moving our feet to ban assault weapons, to ban high-capacity magazines, to improve and increase the things we are doing to ensure that never again do people have to feel unsafe, do kids have to worry and shelter in place. And we can and need to continue to say never again, because we need to make that a reality together. And so please, let me introduce from Protect Minnesota, Maggie Emery, because it is the families and the advocates on the front lines that we do this work with. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Maggie Emery. I'm the Executive Director of Protect Minnesota, which is the only state-based, statewide gun violence prevention organization in our state. I stand here today, once again, angry and heartbroken. In 2.5 years in this job, I have lost count of the number of times that I've stood in front of a microphone saying that I'm standing here angry and heartbroken, and I am just sick of it. Yet again, our children, our parents, and our teachers and our communities have been forced to live through a nightmare. Guns are the #1 cause of death for children in this country. Let me say that again, the #1 cause of death for children in this country, and every single one is preventable. How many more times do we have to gather like this before we act? How many more times do the people here with me today have to stand up in front of news microphones and say, please let this be the last time, before it's actually the last time? And the thing about it is, we know what fuels this crisis. Assault weapons and high-capacity magazines designed to kill as many people as possible, and sometimes as many children as possible, as quickly as possible. The data is clear. When assault weapons are used, mass shootings are far more deadly, with 6 times as many people shot and more than 2 times as many killed. Year after year, progress is stalled while our communities and our children pay the price. This is a uniquely American phenomenon, but Minnesota does not have to wait any longer. We have the power to lead the way and to show that the lives of our children matter than the gun lobby's money and political cowardice. Enough delay and enough excuses. It's time to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines and to finally put our kids' right to simply grow up ahead of everything else. Brady was not able to be here today, but they asked me to read a brief statement of support saying that Minnesota should finally join states around the nation that have said enough is enough and pass an assault weapons ban and a ban on large capacity magazines. And finally, I'd like to introduce our final speaker, our partner here in the state of Minnesota and around the country in ending gun violence, Moms Demand Action Executive Director, Angela Farrow-Zabala.
Good afternoon. I'm going to be honest, y'all, my heart is racing, and I know many of yours are as well. We're here after yet another school shooting. 2 children are dead, 14 more children, and 3 teachers were shot. As a parent, I have to say what every parent feels at this moment, which is the grief is crushing and the anger is unrelenting. This is unbearable. This is unacceptable. Yesterday, I got to come home. I got to come home and tuck my kids into bed and kiss their foreheads. This morning, I had the privilege of watching them sleep safely in their beds and kiss them one more time before I came here. I got to do that because my children came home yesterday. Some of the children at Annunciation Catholic School did not. And for those kids who did make it home, for the parents who did get the chance to pull them close and hold them tight, their lives are still forever changed. Right now, some parents are carrying unbearable grief. Some are carrying unrelenting anger. And whatever you are feeling, it's okay. If all you can do today is find a quiet moment and hold your children close because you still can, honor that. If you feel called to scream your anger into the streets, honor that too. If you need time to sit in the grief before you can get loud, take it. And when you're ready, that will be the right moment for you to act. But I do want to be clear, this wasn't random. This was a second mass shooting in Minneapolis in as many days. 2 days, 2 mass shootings. And yesterday, the shooter aimed an AR-style rifle built to kill as many people, as many children, as quickly as possible through the windows of a church and opened fire. We've said it before, but clearly we need to say it again. Assault weapons are weapons of war. Period. They are designed for the battleground. They don't belong in our schools, in our churches, in our communities. And yet here we are, again, because politicians would rather protect the gun lobby's profits than protect our kids. A 10-year-old boy had more courage hiding in a church pew while his friend shielded him with his body than I have seen from far too many lawmakers, more beholden to a gun lobby than a child. If children can show that kind of bravery under fire, why can't our lawmakers. I'm going to say it again, as it was said before me. We need to ban assault weapons, period. We need to ban high-capacity magazines that allow shooters to fire more rounds without reloading, period, here in Minnesota and across the country. No more excuses. No more thoughts and prayers. Prayers didn't save those children as gunfire rang out while they were actually praying. Action would have. As a woman of deep faith and spirit, there are two things that are resonating deeply with me right now, and this is coming from my Christian tradition. The people who enter the kingdom of heaven are not those who claim to know God, but the one who does the will of my Father. Matthew 7:21. And faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. James 2:17. Why are we leaving it to our children to fight gunmen armed with an assault rifle? Let me be clear. This isn't some kind of impossible ask. Assault weapons and our children can't coexist. And we have seen other states take the mantle. Just this year alone, we saw progress from states like Rhode Island and Colorado. The majority of Americans, Republicans, Democrats, gun owners, veterans, people of deep faith, in fact, people from all walks of life agree that these weapons have no place in civilian life. The only ones standing in the way? Politicians who are too cowardly to act. And I say to that, the lives of our children are not for sale, period. We should not have to be standing here the morning after another school shooting, another school shooting, another school shooting. But here we are, yet again, standing in front of you in grief and anger and asking, when will enough be enough? And we will keep showing up and keep asking that question until lawmakers finally decide that the lives of children are worth more than the profits of gun manufacturers. We owe our kids more than lockdown drills and ducking for cover in church pews. We owe them a future. And if lawmakers won't act to ban assault weapons, to ban high-capacity magazines, then voters will elect new ones that will. Thank you very much.
We're going to take about 3 or 4 questions. I know it's we're running a little over, and then we can do some pull-asides after. So please raise your hand if you have a question, and just we ask that you direct your question to the speaker instead of generally. Yeah, go ahead.
My question is for state legislators. In 2024, when the DFL controlled the legislature, you were unable to pass an assault weapons ban that was proposed. Now the Republicans have divided control in the House. What makes you think practically that this could have any chance of passing next year?
Thank you for your question. My name is Erin Murphy. I am the proud Senate Majority Leader. We have to take the vote. We need to act on the wishes of Minnesotans and for the safety of our kids all across the state of Minnesota. And as I've heard previous leaders say, take the vote. Vote your district. We'll see where it goes. But I think Minnesotans are clear with us. They are in favor of a ban on assault weapons, and they're in favor of a ban on high-capacity magazines. And it's time for us to love our children most and do our work.
I think we should have in 2024. The thought at the time was that we hadn't acted on gun violence prevention to move it forward in our state in decades. We hadn't taken advances to try to protect our kids, our public, and we did take important action in 23 and 24. We enacted universal background checks and we enacted red flag laws, and those two bills are saving lives today. I had a bill drafted to ban assault weapons and ban high-capacity magazines, and I didn't introduce it. And part of the thought was we weren't ready. Part of the thought was we needed to take action on these two laws first to break the ice, to try to be able to move forward. But we're ready now. It shouldn't have taken tragedy coming to Minnesota to be ready. I have an 8-year-old who goes to school a mile away from Annunciation Church. It shouldn't have taken it coming to our communities for us to be ready to act. We should have been ready to act then, but we are ready to act now.
Looking at it from a national perspective, is there anything about what's happened here in Minneapolis in the last 24 to 48 hours that makes you think that this could come out, the outcome for what you're wanting could be different?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I will say that one of the things I get to do in my role as a national leader is travel all across this country in the reddest of states, the bluest of states, the purple states, and poll after poll, conversation after conversation, mother, father, parent, they all want the same thing. They want common sense gun laws that are going to protect our communities. And why do I think that this moment is different, or why do I think we have? Because we are opening up a door to bring other people in to know that they have a place here and that there's something we can actually do about it. This isn't a natural disaster. It is not a car accident. It's not childhood cancer. This is something that we can do practically. And so we have actually seen progress over the past decade in many states across this country. And we're going to keep pushing with my incredible Moms and Men Action and other leaders, Protect Minnesota, that's Brady, that stand up every single day, Gifford, to do this work. So we're not going to stop, political will or not, we're going to keep moving forward. That's how you make the change.
One more. Perfect. Well, if not, we're going to take a group photo, and then if you would like any pull-asides, I'll be right in the corner. You'll take a crowd. Thanks so much.
There you have it. Minnesota local lawmakers discussing, of course, the tragedy that happened yesterday in Minneapolis at the school where 2 young children lost their lives and many others injured in that attack. We do want to show you. We didn't get to show you the beginning of that in-demand news conference with the local leaders, but we are learning that the Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey called for state and federal ban on assault weapons, ban on high-capacity magazines, saying that there is no reason somebody should be able to reel off 30 rounds before they even have to reload. He said at City Hall, and Frey, surrounded by state and federal lawmakers, Minneapolis and St. Paul council members and gun control activists, says to the extent the state feds can't or won't do it, let us do it ourselves. I think we'd be happy to ban assault rifles here in Minneapolis. And that is being reported by Dina Winter from the Star Tribune out there in Minneapolis. All right, we do want to show you now the full remarks from Mayor Frey just a little bit ago. Let's bring this to you here on Live Now.
United in grief, and at the same time, based on this incredible group of people that has assembled here in City Hall, we are also united in action. We are committed to not having this be the scenario where another politician comes up to say never again. Another person stands in front of a microphone to announce a horribly tragic and unspeakable situation where more family members have been killed. We are committed to making this time different. And we have so many residents around our city and around our state that are 100% united to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. Of course, we're standing up with love. Of course, we're standing up with thoughts and with prayers. But thoughts and prayers are not going to cut it. It's on all of us to see this through so that there is an action, so that something like this never happens again. We need action at the federal level. We need action at the state level. We need coordination with the cities around the country to make sure that every person has this common foundation of safety where they can send their kid off to school and have the confidence that they will be safe. Think of these kids not as somebody else's, but as your own. Think of those last words that you had with your child just this morning before you sent them into school. You kissed them on the cheek, you got them set up with their shoes, you pushed them a pouch of applesauce. Maybe these were little annoyances, but the truth is that there's this common and beautiful thing. We love our children. Make these changes not out of hate. Make them out of a simple and beautiful foundational love for our kids. And so what are we talking about? When we talk about action, we need to talk about the action steps that need to take place. We need a statewide and a federal ban on assault weapons. We need a statewide and a federal ban on high-capacity magazines. There is no reason that someone should be able to reel off 30 shots before they even have to reload. We're not talking about your father's hunting rifle here. We're talking about guns that are built to pierce armor and kill people. Why do we have them coming in by the trunk loads onto our streets around the country? And this is not just about Minneapolis, because you can buy an assault rifle in Milwaukee, and that assault rifle is in Minneapolis by noon that very same day. And so when we talk about the work that needs to be done, it's going to take a whole lot of unity from a lot of different cities, and I've gotten calls from their mayors who have experienced virtually the same thing that we experienced yesterday. And because we love our kids, because we love our families, because we love our constituents, we all have the obligation to act. And what you see here, you see federal congresswomen, you see we see our Minneapolis state delegation. You have council members from both Minneapolis and St. Paul. You have our sheriff. You have Moms Demand Action, Protect Minnesota, and every town all united and rallying around a common theme, which is keeping our cities and our country safe. And here's the thing. To the extent the federal government isn't willing to do it, to the extent a divided legislature prevents our state from acting, and by the way, I know that our Minneapolis delegation is on board with this work because they've been doing it. Thank you. But here's the final ask. To the extent other levels of government are either unwilling or unable to keep cities safe, let us do it ourselves. We are responsible for 435,000 residents that call Minneapolis home and many more that come and go. I think we'd be happy to ban assault rifles here in Minneapolis. I know we'd be happy to prevent a next mass shooting from taking place. We have every obligation, not just to each other, but to these families that call Minneapolis home. We love them. Let's love them with more than words. Let's love them with the kind of action that will forever make the difference for people in our city. So the next go round, there's not another city 2 months from now that is saying the same damn thing. Let's stop this from happening. Let's stand up for our children. Let's stand up for each and every one of them. So it takes a whole team to pack this hall, to put these events together, but more importantly, to do the kind of long-term advocacy that results in change. I mentioned a number of groups that are here, and I have the honor, and please give her a very warm welcome, of welcoming up from Moms Demand Action, an exceptional volunteer in Leah Condis.
That was Mayor Frey once again calling for assault weapons ban, once again trying to bring that to the light as we just saw that tragedy play out yesterday in Minneapolis. Hi, everyone. Mike Page here. Thanks so much again for joining us on Live Now. It is 3 p.m. Eastern and 12 o'clock out on the West Coast. We continue to bring you some of the day's biggest top stories. Of course, the in-demand live feeds. And when breaking news happens, you know we have you covered as well. All right, next up on deck, everyone, we are expecting Minneapolis police to be giving an update soon. We will hear from the chief, Brian O'Hara, on the latest in the investigation to the mass shooting at the Minneapolis school just yesterday. So as soon as that does get going, we're just going to stay on this just a little bit more because it looks like we're getting very, very close. We have more officials coming in. We are already having the sign language expert there as well. So also signs pointing that this is going to get going here pretty soon. We already did hear a little bit earlier today from healthcare officials on the latest of the injured that were taken to local hospitals. We did get an update a little bit earlier today, and we did learn now that the total injured were 18 total people in that attack. And unfortunately, like we all know, 2 people lost their lives, such young children losing their lives yesterday when it was just an early morning mass to try to get the school day going, and then tragedy happened. So our thoughts with everyone that continue to suffer from this tragedy, and now we will be waiting for more updates coming in just a moment from the officials. But in the meantime, I do want to show you the latest